Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, there's an old saying, if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. We'll be talking to an expert in estate planning next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, let's be honest, estate planning is something that none of us want to think about. We just don't. It's a topic that we put off till later. And then unfortunately, a person dies without a will, or they don't have a trust in place, and suddenly the kids are fighting at a time when they should be mourning you or celebrating your life. Somebody who knows that very well is on the front line of this fight. Adriane Grace is in the studio. She's with the law office of Adriane Grace. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing, because you're saving families from just so much grief, especially if you can get them to put a plan in place early. Talk about what's the most rewarding thing in your life.
I would say seeing people benefit from these plans and their families being happy and having peace of mind that there was something in place and taken care of. They feel very taken care of after their loved one has died.
And I was watching a lot of your video tips. You have so many video tips, and one of them was you might think you're doing the right thing. You have a verbal agreement with a sibling or something like that, and then the death happens, and suddenly there's this big fight. Talk about why it's so critical to actually have it in writing.
Exactly. I agree. We definitely need to have things in writing, because once we're gone, people will invent their own narrative about what the plan is or should have been or should be. And that's very problematic, because no two narratives are the same. Everyone's going to insert their own, and they're likely not going to agree. So without a writing to say what the person wanted, people are going to invent what they think the person wanted.
Sure, it can absolutely rip families apart. Let's pull up your homepage, and as we scroll down your homepage, you offer a wide variety of services. Why don't you just kind of list off some of the different specialties? Trusts?
Yeah, so our practice is predominantly estate law. Estate planning is about half of our practice, and the other part is helping families after someone has passed or has become disabled. So we often get involved when an elderly individual loses mental capacity and can no longer take care of themselves or their money or property, and they need a family member to assist them with that. And then we assist as well after someone has passed away.
All right, Adriane, what is your favorite client story right now?
My favorite client story right now is a client who reached out to me from Washington. Her sister had been very sick with cancer, and she also had signs of dementia, although she didn't have a formal diagnosis. And she learned that her sister had gone missing out of the state. She reached out to me because she knew her sister was somewhere in North Texas and wanted help finding her and figuring out what to do. So we followed a process and located her sister. And what we found out was that some family members, not her and her sister's family, but family members of her sister's deceased husband, had gotten involved and had basically tricked her into signing power of attorney documents that allowed them to get on all of her financial assets. And it was very unfortunate. As a result, they were able to sell all her property, move her out of the state, and they put her in a nursing home where her family couldn't find her. Wow.
I have to imagine that so many times somebody's coming into your office and you're saying, I wish you had called me 5 years ago.
Right, exactly. That's fairly frequent and common when someone has a health scare. Maybe they've had a stroke, or there's an early diagnosis of dementia. Maybe it's a later diagnosis of dementia, and they don't have any planning documents in place that their family can use to help them out.
Sure. She is a content factory. She produces so many videos. It was a joy preparing for this show because she has so much stuff on YouTube. Let's go ahead and roll one of her video tips.
Hi, I'm Adriane Grace of Grace Estate Law, and I'm an estate planning and probate attorney in Frisco, Texas. And for the last 8 years, I've been helping families not only create their estate plans, but I've also helped families defend estate plans in our North Texas probate courts. And this probate practice has definitely informed my estate planning practice. So today, I want to talk to you about the 3 reasons why you should not DIY a will. Reason number 1, there's no one there to help you or guide you through the estate planning process. Many people turn to DIY solutions like online forms such as LegalZoom or Will and Trust or Susie Orman's Kit because they think it's going to be easy. But unfortunately, there's no one there to guide them or help them in choosing the forms or help them to understand what the forms mean. And if you have unique circumstances or family facts, there's no one there to provide customized legal solutions in those forms. For example, just today, I had a client consulting with me in my office about another legal issue, and I asked him if he had made a will. He volunteered that he had made his will already through LegalZoom. Now, I knew that money was an issue for this client, so I politely offered to review his forms to make sure that they were signed properly. As I was reviewing those forms, I noticed what he had made was called a living will. Now, this is a healthcare planning form that we use to direct our wishes in the event of our incapacity. Unfortunately, what he didn't know was he had bought a healthcare planning estate planning package and not a full comprehensive estate plan that had included a will. So the lesson learned here is that it's better to work with an experienced estate planning attorney who can guide you through these choices and better plan for you and your loved ones. Reason number 2, you don't know what you don't know. Actual effective estate planning is not one size fits all, yet that's all these online services have to offer. And if you don't fit their mold, you're going to have mistakes littered throughout your plan. How do I know this? Because I often get the family members of these loved ones coming to my office after they've passed away, asking me to probate these wills. So the most common issue I see with these wills is that they are fill-in-the-blank forms, and the person creating the will for themselves forgot to fill in some of these blanks. For example, whether it was filling in the form to state who they wanted to act on behalf of their estate, like an independent executor, or even forgetting to put where they want their property to go. And worst of all, some of these wills didn't even have the witness blocks or the notary blocks signed and completed, creating wills that were not even valid and can't be offered for probate. Reason number 3, if something happens to you, who's your family going to call if they don't understand what your will says? I see this issue come up most frequently with the oldest DIY will, the handwritten will. Now, handwritten wills are completely legal in Texas, but there are rules. And if you don't follow these rules, your family's out of luck. What I often see is that the person making the will has been vague or not very specific in these handwritten wills, leaving the document open to more than one interpretation. In one specific example, a beneficiary sued an executor over what the person said in their handwritten will. Now, what happened was the person making the will had tried to give away some property to the beneficiary through the will that they were legally not allowed to give away in a will. The beneficiary didn't understand this, however, and they spent a lot of money and wasted a lot of time suing the executor over it. Now, don't do this to your executor, because your executor is often your friends and your family. I know it can be confusing and overwhelming and difficult to discuss estate planning, especially discussing these issues of death and disability. But with a trusted advisor by your side, you can get this accomplished. If you're considering doing a DIY estate plan, give our office a call instead. We help our clients create meaningful legacies with confidence and grace, and we would be honored to assist you too.
What impresses me, Adriane, is I think you have the heart of a teacher. You love to educate people, don't you?
I do, absolutely. I love educating families about their rights and about how they can use resources in their community to help them out.
Yeah, and what's fascinating to me is that even the rich and powerful, I mean, the Michael Jackson estate got fought over, Aretha Franklin, and you name the star, and even these people who should have an army of attorneys telling them what to do, they can mess it up. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think that estate planning is a mindset issue as well. We're talking about death, disability, things that nobody wants to think about, things that people would like to avoid thinking about. And a lot of people do. AARP says about 60% of people are going to die without making any kind of planning documents. And that applies to people, like you mentioned, who are very wealthy and have lots of resources, and people who have nothing just because they're too afraid to think about it.
Yes, and the media loves you. You get featured in a variety of articles. This one I found really interesting. This was in Voyage Dallas. I love the way you're educating people through the media. Talk a little bit about why it's important to just reach out through the media to talk to people who might never come to your office.
Yeah, media is a great way to get in touch with people. I think people, all of us really, have a short attention span. And so short videos and clips are an easier way to get people's attention and help them learn a little bit about the topic and get them interested.
Sure. Okay, a little bit more on Adriane. As I was looking at the Voyage Dallas article, I scrolled down and there's this adorable picture. It was taken several years ago. Let's go ahead and put that on the screen. All right, tell us what we're looking at and when was this taken?
This picture was taken probably in March of 2016. This is after the birth of my second child, and that's my older child, my daughter, looking at her new brother, realizing she's got a big job ahead of her, and us with my husband and their dad.
Awesome. And their ages now?
Oh, they are 12 and 8 now.
Wow. And I have to imagine, as an attorney who now has a family who she's thinking about her own estate, I mean, this makes it real. When you're talking to your clients, you can identify.
Yeah, absolutely. Parents want the best for their children, and the best should include peace of mind. Making sure your children are taken care of includes not just while you're alive, but after you're gone. You want continuity of care, and you want resources and assets available to those caregivers to help the children.
Sure. One of my favorite expressions is, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So what's your why? Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? I really like helping people. I like knowing what I'm doing is making a huge difference in their life. I once had an assistant who told me, you know, what we do here is so important. We enter people's lives during a period that's stressful, and it's going to be very memorable, and it's a really important part of their history. So I feel very honored that my clients choose us to involve them during those important parts of their lives, and that we can make a difference during those times.
And you touched on something, empathy, because I don't know that they teach empathy in law school.
No.
So to be able to actually be there as almost a therapist in their, probably the worst situation of their life, that has to feel special.
It does, yes. I mean, my law degree says, or my licensures say, attorney and counselor at law. And so that's a lot of what we're doing is we're counseling. We're counseling our clients not just about the law and what their rights are, but also sometimes just things like resources in the community that they can use to help them along.
Sure. Adriane, we only have a couple of minutes left, so look into that camera on the left. And for that person who has been putting off thoughts of their own death, talk to them about why they really need to get serious about estate planning.
I think that it's a very loving gift that you can give to your family to create an estate plan, documents that guide your family and let them know what you want after you're gone, and if you were to become disabled and unable to communicate your wants and needs to them. That's a really strong gift for them because they're going to be grieving, they're going to be sad about you being gone, and this will be one less stressful thing that they have to think about.
We're at a powerful way to end the segment. We'll also leave you with her website, which is gracelawoffice.com. The great Adriane Grace. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.